everybody.
Welcome everybody to number 5 lesson of Mike's sales certification course. How you doing today, Mike?
I am well. We finally got summer. It's been in the 80s for the last 10 days, which is really unusual for Seattle, but no, things are well. I hope everybody out there is doing well and you're enjoying the process. We're halfway through and we're finally going to get to the actual selling process, because I keep reminding you, this is a relationship business. And so you have to figure out and understand how you develop the relationship in order to get to this point. So now we're talking about, we're on lesson 5. Now we've established a relationship. So now we're in the second phase, which is asking the questions. How do you get the information you need? And how do you get all of the information you need in order to make an intelligent proposal down the road? So what you're seeing here is there's 4 parts to it. And this is about managing the process and managing your time. And you notice of the 4 quadrants in here, asking questions is the absolute biggest one. So that's what we're going to concentrate today, is just asking the questions. What order do you ask them? How do you ask them? What are the kinds of questions that we want to ask? And we'll just go from there. So you should be on page 20. And I want you to go down to the bottom of the very first paragraph. And I want you to underline this. And I want you to, this should be one of the primary things that you remember about selling. You control the conversation by the questions you ask, not by the statements you make. If you want to direct the conversation, ask them questions that give you valuable information that leads you to your next question. And that's the whole point to this. That's the whole point to the conversational circle. This is where you use the conversational circle the most. They give you a statement, you give them the appropriate feedback, and then you ask a question relating to where do they want to go, when do they want to go, how do they want to get there, how many people are going, all of those kinds of things you are going to get to, and this is the logical way to do it. Now, how do we go about doing this? The first thing we want to do, conversational circle, makes a statement, give feedback, ask a question. This is critical to your success. If you don't use this, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to make a sale. So here's what we're going to cover today. So the first thing is, and before I talk to you about this, this goes along with Jose's lesson 2, which is qualifying. And my modules, this thing down here at the bottom is out of date because the Travel Cafe has been changed. All of Jose's lessons. So Jose and I talk to you all about this all the time. I'm giving you general questions to ask. Jose is going to give you specific questions to ask about specific areas in the travel industry, whether it's cruises, resorts, group movements, whatever it happens to be. Jose is going to give you specific questions to ask in those modules. And they're no longer in the back office module 5 training. Those are gone. Where they sit now is in the same training folder of where you're finding my stuff.
Can I clarify that, Mike?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you go to the back office and then you click on Travel Cafe, and then like Mike said, yes, it's in the trainings hub and you can find it right there. Under Quick Start, you'll find Mike's sales training sales training certification program. That's the right word. And then you'll also find Jose's Wednesday trainings there, which is what Mike is talking about, where you can find how to book a cruise, group cruises, the very specific travel trainings that he's talking about.
Great, thanks. What we're trying to provide for you wonderful people is a complete template where you can go out and have all the confidence in the world that you're going to get the information you need in order to make a sale. Okay, so first thing you want to do is pre-call planning. Now, pre-call planning is different depending on what kind of a call you're going to make. So if it's a cold call, what you want to use is what you learned in last week's lesson, which is the initial benefit statement. If you're walking in there cold and you don't know what they want or how they want it or where they're going or anything, use the initial benefit statement because you want to show them how you can save them time, energy, and money. This is especially true if you're walking in and you're trying to gain corporate clients as opposed to personal clients. And there's a niche out there for the corporate market if you're interested in doing that. Now, if you have an appointment and you know what's going to be talking about, then you want to go in, and pre-call planning is nothing more than figuring out, what do I want to get accomplished in this meeting? That's it. What do I want to have happen when I leave this meeting? And that's your pre-call planning. If you don't have an idea of what you're doing once you go in there, you might as well not go in, because if you don't have a purpose, they're gonna figure that out really quickly. And remember, the first decision they make is back in lesson 1. The first decision they make is, are they going to continue to give you the time of day? Are they going to continue to listen to you? Your pre-call planning helps ensure that. So when you walk in, you're going to set the agenda. So setting your agenda is if you already have an appointment and you have a fairly good idea. So initial benefit statement if it's a cold call. If it's a setup call where it's a referral or you've made an appointment and you have some information, this is where your pre-call planning comes in. You're going to set the agenda. I know what they want. How do I want to get there? What do I want to talk to them about? That's what you're going to tell them by setting your agenda. All right. So in the agenda, there's 4 parts. And make a note of this because this is on the test. What do you need to know in order to be of help to them? That's where the bulk of your questions are going to be. Is there anything else I need to know? Is there some outside force playing on this? For example, are they looking at other travel agents besides yourself? That's very common. They may be using you to compare what they're looking at from other places, or what they're discovering for themselves through internet. And that's going to be very common. I mean, in my day, all I had to worry about was other reps. I didn't have to worry about all the gazillion printing companies that are out there online trying to get their business. They're just sending out bid sheets to schools, and the schools would send them back and they'd send them some stupid price. And the schools had no idea what their service was. They had no idea what their support levels were. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to be running against digitally as opposed to the personal contact. That's why I keep hammering on you that this is a relationship business. All right. Third, how we will proceed going forward. So once you've got the information from them, then you're going to tell them, okay, once I have this information, this is what we're going to do. And then this is very, very important. Depending on how much time you think it's going to take, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, you're just going to tell them, I've planned out for about 20 minutes for this whole process. Is that okay with you? Is that enough time? And they're either going to say yes or no. If they say yes, then you're good to go. If they say no, then you need to follow up with, okay, how much time can you share with me today? And if they can only give you half the time, now you have a decision to make. Can you get everything you need to know in half that time? Or do you want to reschedule where you can have the full time? Or do you want to do half now and reschedule for the second half and a day or two later? But you need to get the permission on asking the time. That's very, very important. Okay, so setting the agenda. That's where we are right here. So now what you want to do is once you've gotten all that out of the way and you are in agreement, you are now ready to start the process. And the easy way to do that is what's called the bridge statement. And it's nothing more than down at the bottom before we begin. So you're actually not selling them anything yet. You're still maintaining the positive relationship. Before we begin, let me ask you about, and then just go somewhere. Let me ask you about the trips you've taken in the past. Let me ask you about what kinds of problems have you experienced in your previous trips, if you've taken any. How much travel experience do you have? The possibilities are endless. So ask them things that are important for you to gather information, because that gives you a clue as to how you can how you can interact with them going down the road. It's really simple. And I've got so it's just, you tie that in to what's coming up, which is the hypothetical questions. All right, so these are the types of questions we're going to ask. What we're doing is we're asking the right question for the situation. And there's questions you want to ask early on, and there's questions you don't want to ask early on. What you're trying to do is get as much information as you can, as quickly as you can. Okay, so the hypothetical, this is where the kind of the bridge statement comes in. They're the question, ask the if questions. And I printed a couple of them on the right-hand column on page 20. Remember, I'm not a travel agent. These are just the things that I would ask if I was a newbie coming in and I didn't know what I was doing. And I go, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? If you could do anything you want, what would that be? It might not be travel related. It might be something else. If you had an unlimited budget, what would you like to do? So these are just things that are designed to get into their heads a little bit in a non-threatening, non-selling way, just to get some additional information from them. Okay. These are a lot of fun, and they're really good icebreakers when you're going into somebody, especially people that you don't know. All right. So after the hypotheticals, the first type of question you want to ask are what we call the journalism questions, non-directives: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And the how questions are how much, how many, how often. Those have a lot of value. These are we call them open questions, because they're designed to get information. Closed questions are typically questions that start with a verb or an adverb that only elicits a yes/no response. Those have their place in the selling process, but not here. You are still trying to gather information. So use the journalism questions. When do you want to go? How often do you travel in the world? Where do you go? Where would you like to go? How many people are going to be on this trip with you? Those are the kinds of questions that, as you go through your conversational circle, you keep getting more and more and more information. So those red flags turn to yellow flags, and then they turn to green flags. And that's how you know you're getting the information that you need in order to make this happen. Okay. So these are the non-directive, the global questions. And so over on page 21, you've got some examples here. How do you feel about your current income as it relates to your travel plans? This is a budget question. You're trying to say it in a nice way. And we're going to talk about the three most important questions toward the end of the session, which is, who's the buyer, when are they going to buy, and how much do they have to spend? We're going to get into that. But right now, these are some of the questions you can ask. What are your favorite things to do? Is it cruising? Is it resorts? Is it cold weather stuff? Is it warm weather stuff? Is it river cruises? What is it that you like to do? Is there places you don't want to go? My wife does not want to go to Mexico or the Caribbean anywhere in this lifetime. So we plan, when we take our trips, we plan for Europe, Mediterranean. The next one we want to go to is a Northern European cruise of some sort. So because that's what has interest for us. Neither one of us are hot weather people, so we really don't want to go to those areas. Okay, so these are questions that are general. Questions that get specific only require yes, no answers, and we're not there yet. This is not the place to ask those questions. Okay, now, one of the things I want you to really, really pay attention to is on page 21 on the left-hand column, second paragraph from the bottom that starts with our telling tensions. I want you to underline, circle that paragraph because it's really important for your mental state. Those of you who are right of the line, this is going to be a challenge for you. Your telling tensions are going to go up because as they keep talking, you know exactly what it is they need and you know exactly what it is you want to sell to them. You have to avoid that temptation like the plague. There's a process to this. The process is gathering information. The process is not gather, sell, gather, sell. It's gather, 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 gather. Thank you. Is there anything else? And then you go make a presentation. Then you go sell, 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 sell. So your telling tensions are going to go up. For you left of the line people, this is going to be a piece of cake for you because you are natural questioners. You ask questions rather than make statements. So this part of the selling process is going to be really, really easy for you. When we get to the presentation side on lesson 7, it flip-flops. The right of the line people are going to be really comfortable because they get to do a lot of the talking. The left of the line people, you analyticals and amiables, this is a little bit more of a challenge for you. So there's parts of this that works for all four styles. You're just going to have to modify your behavior on the one that applies to you. The longer they talk, the more they reveal about how you can best sell, and you want to jump right in. So you don't really want to do that. All right, so the next kind of question, by the way, if any of you have any questions as we're going along, type them up in the chat, and Amanda will ask them at the end of the session today. All right, so elaboration questions. These are the ones that they tell me more. These are those of you that are old enough to remember Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. This is where you get the rest of the story out. My uncle was a worldwide salesman for Shell Oil for 30 years, and he was on airplanes all the time. And he would tell me about conversations on 2 and 3 hour flights with people he'd never met before. And he knew everything about them simply by saying, really? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, tell me more. Wow, cool. Keep going. And he would never say a word. He would just encourage them to keep going. That's what elaboration questions are designed to do. So your feedback is, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more. That's really, really cool. So that's the elaboration questions. All right. Reflective questions. Remember, I told you sometimes you get into a lock-on, lock-out situation where you've zoned out. You can't remember what they said. The reflective questions are your parachute. This is what helps you. Oh, I'm not sure I heard you. Could you say that again? So you're reflecting back to them. This is really good if you get into a situation where they may be objecting or challenging you on something and you're not really sure how to respond. So a reflective question is reflecting back what they just told you. And I'll give you an example. Let's say that you're on a recruiting mission. You're not selling travel. You're trying to recruit somebody that you think might be interested in this business. And you're explaining evolution to them. And it comes out that evolution's an MLM. And they go, oh, I don't like MLMs. And you could go, oh, MLMs? And you just phrase it like a question. You don't know why they don't like MLMs. So don't try to guess. Get the information from them by asking them a question. So you can say, oh, MLMs? Or can you share with me why you're not comfortable with MLMs? Don't guess. So a reflective statement really sends it back to you. You're going to get this when you're selling travel. The most common misunderstanding is what happens when you get to the pricing. And how many times, those of you that have tried to do this, you've probably run up against this already, is, man, your price is way too high. So rather than doing anything, go, oh, too high? And then just shut up. Let them tell you why they think it's too high, because chances are they don't understand it's either an all-inclusive or the taxes and fees have already been paid. Meals are included. They don't know why. You don't know why they think it's too high. It may be something that you inadvertently left out, and this gives you a chance to clarify that. Don't go on the offensive. I mean, don't go on the defense. Okay. You don't know why they made that statement. You need to find that out before you can respond to them. That's where the reflective question comes in. Another question, let's see. Oh yeah, this is a really good one that I've used. I use this a lot when I was selling, and it's called "Why is that?" And it's different from "Why," because when you say when you're in a conversation and somebody says something that you don't understand or you don't agree with, you go, "Why? Why?" But if you say, "Oh, well, why is that?" If you remain non-defensive, then you can get more information. The whole key to this whole process is staying non-defensive and keeping the stress levels down, because they are going to have a tendency to rise depending on how the conversation goes. But why is that is simply a matter of asking them, why do you feel like that? So like some people don't like princess cruises. Some people don't like Carnival. Some people don't like, Holland America. Who knows why they don't like it? But rather than venturing a guess, it's really, really easy just to say, oh, okay. Can you tell me why? Why is that? Just form the why, not a naked, I call it the naked why. Don't use why, but phrase it in a sentence. Why is that? Oh, can you share with me why you feel like that? So that's what that is. That's why that is critical. And you right of the line people, you want to get to the answers really quick. So your tendency is going to use the naked why. And you need to avoid that. Okay. So these are the last question. This is where you get specific. Go to page 22. These are called the direct questions. These are the ones where you elicit a yes, no response. And it kind of happens like toward the end of your present, not your presentation, but your questioning phase. Do you like what you've seen so far? Yes. Okay. Or no. Okay, great. You like it? Let's go on from here. Let's cover some more stuff. If they say no, then you say, okay, I understand. Remember, understand is acknowledgement. You're acknowledging their point of view. But if they say, do you like what you've seen so far? And they say no, okay, I understand. I've done something not correct here. Let's go back. What is it that you don't like that we can address so that I've got a chance to because I want to make sure I give you the correct proposal. So either way, you stay non-defensive. So the directive questions are only designed to get a yes, no response. And then if you need to go back into the non-directive questions, this gives you the opportunity to do that. Okay. Direct questions, look at the second paragraph. Direct questions simply verify that you've understood a statement and are verifying its accuracy. So if I understand you correctly, this is what you're saying. Boom, 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 boom. Is that right? Yes. No. And then you go, depending on the answer, then you go from there. All right. It's very important to use your feedback at this point. Remember, support and approval if they're agreeing with you, acknowledgement if they're not. All right. That's why the feedback part of this is really, really important. They need to understand that you are hearing them, you are listening to them, and that you understand what they're telling you. Okay. Now let's get to the fun part. Here are the three most important questions. And I cannot tell you how many people get this wrong on the test. And for the life of me, I don't know why. This these 3 questions. If you don't have positive responses and you don't have the answer to these 3 questions, you are not a salesperson, you are a storyteller. So somewhere in the conversation, you have to get these 3 things into your notes. First, people. Who are the ones making the decision? In my case, I always called on the advisor first, but I knew the advisor was not the final decision maker because she couldn't or he couldn't bind the school with a contract. I had to always then go to the administrator of the school or the purchasing director of the district to get the final approval. So one of the first questions I asked, and I always phrased it this way. And I put it, and by the way, this is really important. I put this in the manual under people. In addition to yourself, and I always start it that way. In addition to yourself, who else will take an interest in this decision? And then the advisor will tell me this person who's the administrator or this person who is the purchasing director for the district. They will tell me who's going to help make that decision. Right? So I go, okay. So what I would do is once I found out who those people are, I want to make sure that when I come in and make my presentation, that person or people are in the room at the time. Because if they're not, the person that you are talking to, if you don't ask them this question, the person that you are talking to simply becomes the gatekeeper to all of those other people. And then you're counting on that person to accurately tell your story to all of those other people. And do you think that they're going to get it completely right? You know they're not, because they don't have the knowledge and the information that you have. And when questions come up, they're not going to have the answers that you have. So this is a critical piece to this. You've got to have, it's okay to talk to the person initially. It's better if you have everybody in the room. But if you can't, talk to the person initially. And then, for example, if it's a big family get together and they're coming in from all over the country, maybe you can get it on a Zoom call with everybody. So if you've got people on the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest, and they all can't fly into the same place, get on a Zoom call that's a convenient time for everybody so you can make your proposal to everybody, not just the initial person that you talk to. Okay, next one, time. They have to be able to make the decision now or pretty quick. If you're talking to somebody now that's going to take a trip to the Caribbean in February or March when it's cold in Seattle and warm down there, that's a pretty big time span. And if it's not a complicated trip, they may want to postpone that decision. So you need to find out when it is they're going to make that decision. All right. In my case, I always knew it was going to be sometime in the spring when the yearbooks were put to bed for the year and the advisors were looking, they had time on their hands where they could entertain other proposals from other companies. So you have to figure out when's that time. If they have a complicated trip and they're going to make that trip in 2 weeks, you're going to be scrambling. But, and I've told you about the big ladies golf group that we just signed up. They're going out in September of 2026, and we've already agreed to do business with each other. However, there are so many things that have to be done. We are in constant communication. We have to figure out, they haven't signed any contracts. They've agreed in principle to do business with us, but we still don't have them signed up on the bottom line yet. But we are moving negotiations forward, knowing when they're going to make the decision. So this can be a long, drawn out process. It's up to you to find out when are they going to make that decision so you know when to make your final proposal. And then finally, money. You need to know how much money these people have to spend. And some people are sensitive about it. Others are just going, I trust you. We're going to give you the, here's what I can afford. and then you're going to build a package based on that. So, but you need to find out how much money they've got to spend, because if they want to take a 2-week all-inclusive to Sandals Resort and they can afford 3 days in a hotel in New York City, you got a problem. So you have to figure out what it is they want, and then your job is to figure out how you can get them there or get them close in their budget. All right. This ladies golf group has been very forthcoming with us because Keith and I have established a trust factor with them. They have continued to listen to us because we continually ask them questions about what it is they want to do, when they want to do it, how many people are going. And so they trust us with their money issues. And so Keith primarily, not me, I'm only responsible for the golf part. But Keith has been fabulous in figuring out and giving them the biggest bang for their buck. They trust us. And remember, one of the things that I've told you is you are constantly selling yourself as the best person to do business with. And that's what we're doing with this golf group. That's the attitude I want you to have when you are talking with with your clients. Okay, so remember, if you don't have people, time, and money in place before you make your proposal, you stand a really good chance of not getting that business. Without the answers to these 3 questions, you do not have a viable client. You do not have a qualified client. And that's the key. If you can't qualify them on these 3 questions, you're not going to get the sale. You just become a storyteller, and you don't want to do that. All right. So now head over to page 23. So we've talked about the process. Here is the science. We've established a relationship. We've asked the questions. Now, here is, hold on a second. All right. This is not in the manual, but go down to where I've circled the summary statement. I want you to circle that. Remember, we've started with red flags. We've got to yellow flags. Hopefully, we've got to green flags, but we want to verify that we do indeed have green flags across the board. And the way you ask that question is in your head, you ask yourself, do I know enough? To them, and I want you to write this down. Do I know enough? If the answer is no, you go back and you start asking questions again. And how you do that is you ask them, is there anything else? Have I forgotten anything? Do we need to cover anything else? You need to bleed them dry for all the possible information you can get out of them. Okay. So you might think you have green flags, but in reality, they've still got some unanswered questions. You need to find that out. If you don't, you're not going to put together a complete proposal. So this clinches it. Do I know enough? Ask them. Write this down. Is there anything else I need to know before I put together my proposal? Or however you want to phrase it. If they say, yes, we need to cover this, boom, you go back to asking your questions. If they say no, they go, you've done a really thorough job. So now your answer is, so now they go, yes, my answer is yes. I have all the information I need. At that point, the conversation stops because you are not going to take all of your notes, and I'm going to show you how to organize those notes in the next session. You're going to take all of your notes, you're going to organize them, you're going to do your research on the trips that best suit their needs, and you're going to put that down, and you're going to set a second appointment in order to come back and make that presentation to them. Now, this works for complicated sales. If you've got a simple airline ticket or a weekend package and it's not going to take a lot of time, sure, absolutely, go ahead and finish the process. But if you've got something that's going to take you some time to organize, process, and get in an order that's going to be easily explainable to them, this is where you want to stop the conversation and you just say, okay, I have all the information I need. I'm going to go back and put together a proposal for you that I think you will really like. It's going to take me 2 days to do this. So today's Tuesday. Can we meet Thursday at this same time with all of the interested parties? And we'll come to some decisions. And then so you set a time, because remember, the hidden key to your success, the biggest reason you will lose a sale is you never, ever, ever in this lifetime leave the timing of any decision up to the client. If they say, well, let me think about this, you go, I understand there's a lot to process here. I'm here right now. Can you share with me what it is that what additional information you're going to need to process? Maybe I haven't covered something properly. If they try to stall you, and we're going to talk about stalls in lesson 8, if they try to put you off, you're going to lose them. You can take it to the bank. You're going to lose them. Say, well, I tell you what, when would be a better time? If this time doesn't work, when is a good time that we can get back together so that I can show you what I put together and we can answer any more questions? And then you just go on their timeline. They might say, well, I can't do Thursday at 1, but can you come back Thursday morning at, say, 9:30, after the kids have gone to school or whatever? And go, yeah, I can come back anytime. You are my most important thing on my plate right now, and I want to make sure we take care of you. And you just keep reassuring them that you can do stuff. And then the other hidden key is, when you're all done with this process, go back, and hopefully you've printed this out on a Word document or something, these questions, and you just sit in your car or on your desk at home. What did I do right? What went really cool in that interview? What did I screw up? Where did I make my mistakes? Is there something I could have done better? Is there anything I missed? And that's why you ask the do I know enough statement. Did I miss something? It could be, maybe it was something emotional. Maybe it didn't have anything to do with the sales, but there might have been like a blip in the conversation or a blip in the emotions where you felt something was a little bit off. Did you miss something? Did I get a referral? Probably you're not going to get the referral here. That will be at the end when you sit and you do your final 5 golden minutes after the process is complete. But yes, you will send a thank you note every time you talk to them. You will send a thank you note in some form. Maybe not a phone call, but an email, an Instagram, or whatever, a postcard or a thank you card. That'll surprise the living heck out of them, and they'll really get their attention. So anyway, this is lesson 5 today. So as always, if you have any questions of any kind, give me a holler, either by a phone call or an email. And if you have, we'll sit and talk or type back and forth until you have the answers that you need. It's really vital that you really understand the asking questions phase in order to go to the next 2 steps, which we're going to cover next week. So, Amanda, do we have any questions?
Wonderful, Mike. No, we don't have any questions at the moment, but like you said, if they do have questions, they can email or they can call you at mike@archertravel.com.
Okay. All right, guys. So we got 2 more lessons to go, and I'm looking forward to completing this process with you and getting you on your journey to be #1 top Archer Travel salespeople. See you next week.